Azure is billed based on consumption. Every hour of usage of each product, Azure bills you for. And so you run that VM for every hour of the month. If it's a long month, a 31-day month, it's going to cost you more than February when it's a 28-day month. And they bill you for each resource that runs for that hour. So each disk, each IP address, each VM. Some resources don't have infrastructure costs, so that maybe they don't charge you for things like network security groups. Those are logical constructs that manage security on the network. Those I don't believe have a billing cost, but the disks and the network interfaces and the IP addresses and the virtual machines that use those do have a cost. The VPN gateway connected to that network security group does have a cost because you're paying for Microsoft to run the infrastructure running that VPN gateway. Those costs can start to add up over time as you add additional VMs, your storage grows, your logs grow, your snapshots grow. All these resources use space and VMs and physical hardware and virtual resources on the Azure infrastructure, and they bill you for those things as they grow. So the four primary ways we can go dig into cost savings is to, one, clean up old resources that are no longer used and resizing resources that are the wrong size. You might be running a VM and on premise, you ran it as a 4-core, 16 gig of RAM VM, and it ran great. So you put it in Azure as a 4-core, 16 gig of RAM VM. But the reality is you never need more than 2 cores and 8 gigs of RAM because it's a pretty simple server. It's running a lightweight utility. That double the size VM over what it needs means you're paying twice as much. So if we can find resources that we can shrink down their size, then we can pay less. And so we'll talk about that a little bit today, some tools for that. The second piece is to then figure out what VMs and resources you're going to have around long term. There's a way to save money by committing to Microsoft to pay for those VMs long term. And so you build out those VMs. You say, yes, Microsoft, I'm going to have 4 of the VMs in this size for the next year. And they'll give you around 30 to 40% off the cost of the virtual machine in Azure for committing for a year. Now you have to pay for it for the year. Once you click commit, you're paying 12 months of that VM. It doesn't change. The cost of the VM doesn't change when it's a reservation because the cost is static. And so in that case, there's another advantage is you get predictable costs. The third way we can really reduce pricing on virtual machines especially is to use hybrid use benefit, Azure hybrid use benefits. The idea behind that is you pre-commit to pay for the server license for that server if it's a Windows server in Azure. And that's through a CSP licensing process, just like you would buy a Microsoft Business Premium or an E3 license. You buy a server license, 8-core pack, $25 a month approximately. Pay for that, and then you can go take 20 to 40% of the cost of the VM away as well. So you combine those and you can save 50 to 80% on the cost of your VM by doing that. There's other options to save money in Azure, including savings plans and turning servers off. Maybe you have a server that doesn't need to be on for more than a day a month. You run a job on it once a month. You can turn that off. Or maybe you turn it off in the evenings because nobody's using it after hours. Or maybe you have a server that needs a lot of horsepower for a week of the year to do your end of month calculations, but the rest of the year it can be small. You can script resizing it. There's lots of ways we can reduce the cost of the resource we're using in Azure